What survival myth is completely wrong and can get you killed? You can drink water from a cactus. Any liquid inside a cactus will be highly acidic and likely to cause nausea and diarrhea, further dehydrating you. But it'll quench ya. It's the quenchiest. Nothing's quenchier. Friendly giant mushroom. Mushy Jellian friend. You just spent 3 days out of your mind on cactus juice and the first thing you do is lick cave moss? I have a natural curiosity. The notable exceptions to this rule are the prickly pear and one species of beryl cactus, the fishhook beryl, Pheracactus wislizeni. While both of these plants are fairly unpleasant to eat raw, they have less concentrated levels of the detrimental chemicals and could give you a bit of hydration in a pinch. Follow flying birds to find water. They can simply be flying to spend a night anywhere, so we can't rely on them. Fish are the ones you should follow to find water. Conserving water. You should not stretch a glass of water over 4 days. When you are thirsty, you need water. If you're in a hot area, don't ration your water. Drink when you feel thirsty and search for more water. Edit. The myth to be avoided is rationing your water. Don't ration. And quat. Ration sweat, not water and quat. Thank you USAF Survival School. Edit. Wow, this blew up lol. At Sarah School they teach you to find shade and try to do as little as possible during the hotter times of the day. If you have to move, you do so when it cools off. Rationing your water doesn't help you, it will only dehydrate you and impair your judgment. Your brain needs water. Depriving yourself of proper hydration is the best way to unintentionally kill yourself. If you're in a tornado, open all your windows to equalize the pressure inside to match the outside. If you're in a tornado, opening any window or door will create a wind tunnel that rips your entire roof off. Concerning frostbite, do not rub someone's frostbitten skin or pour hot water on it to warm them up. Such measures will damage the skin even more severely. The fastest and safest method for warming up someone is direct animal heat, i.e. letting them put their frosty skin next to yours. Hey, if you can keep your digits by putting a cold hand on my belly, be my guest. I'm not sure if I remember correctly, but I feel like in Boy Scouts they taught that the groin and armpits were good places to warm your hands in an emergency survival situation. And quat. Put your hands between your butt cheeks. That's nature's pocket. And quat. Free Waterfall Sr. That moss grows on the north side of a tree. It can grow all over the tree, so it's not a steadfast rule that you should make important decisions solely on. I grew up in the rainy PNW, and when I heard this as a little kid, I looked at all the moss on every side of the trees and thought that I must just live in the most north place lol edit. I swear if I read another comment about how it would and quat actually be the most south place and quat, I might lose my dang mind more than it's already been lost. That bullshit and quat. Change your voicemail if you are lost and quat. PSA that was making the rounds over the last year. You need a cell signal to change your voicemail. If you have a signal, then why wouldn't you just call for help? Moreover, it misses the most important thing about US cell phones and being lost. 911 will work on any cell tower regardless if it's in quat, in network in quat, or even if you have an active phone plan or not. So in an emergency, always try dialing 911 regardless of your phone appears to have signal or not. Edit. To the dozens of people who replied that you are supposed to change your voicemail before going out, this is still a bad idea. If you're lost or injured in the woods, your survival depends on being found quickly. Waiting for someone to get worried enough about you not coming back to try calling you is just going to waste precious time. It's much better to just tell your friends, family where you will be and set up a check-in time so they know you made it back safely. Split to cover more ground. That's a killer's wet dream. Most of the stuff Bear Grylls does. Like eating raw meat, picking and eating fruit out of bear shit, or squeezing the juice out of elephant shit and drinking it. You cannot eat everything that an animal can eat. There are things animals can eat that humans find toxic, so eating everything you see animals eating can lead to you potentially eating deadly berries or mushrooms. Just because water looks clean doesn't mean it is. You've gotta boil it or distill it to actually have clean water. Or carry a modern filter like a LifeStraw or Sawyer if you think there's even a remote chance you're going to be stranded with no potable water. I'll also add that drinking dirty water is always a better option than going without water. If you are dehydrated but don't have a way to sanitize your water, drink the water anyway. There's a chance it will make you sick or maybe even kill you in very rare cases, but dehydration will always kill you. The first mistake in wilderness is to look for food and water first before having a shelter up to keep yourself dry and warm. Also, if you have to forage for food, avoid mushrooms entirely. Odds are so slim you will find an edible kind that you're much better off looking for things like nuts, seeds, and berries. People say that herbivores' animals are friendly and peaceful, so you are safe being around them. Seriously, everything from cows to deer can and will kill you if you make it angry. It is usually a good idea if you are in the wilds not to get near any large wild animal, but herbivores can often be even more aggressive than the predators. If a predator attacks you, you have a fairly good chance of scaring it off, especially if it's smaller than you, because it's likely only looking for food. If a herbivore attacks you, you're fucked because it genuinely wants to kill you. Running in a zigzag to outrun an alligator. Alligators don't run for long distances, so this will probably just waste your energy. They can also climb some fences and trees as well. Just run straight. No question, just book it. The alligator will eventually decide it's had enough. Edit. Okay, I'm getting too many people pointing out that gators are faster. It doesn't matter if they can catch you. Believe me, I checked. Wild alligators rarely chase humans on dry land. In some situations they might, but usually they don't bother. Who cares how fast they can run if they aren't even going to run you? So stop. Anyone else read these comments with intrigue, imaging yourself in said situation only to remember you haven't left the house in a long time and likely will never find yourself in these scenarios? 'Cause that's me. And quote. If a shark is coming after you, swim away. And quote. If a shark is coming towards you in the first place, it's most likely just curious and wants to check you out. Swimming away and thrashing about will further intrigue it to keep following you. Instead, redirect it by running your hand along its side and carefully positioning it to swim away from you. Side note. If one happens to bite you, poke, stab it in the eyes or pull on its gills instead of bopping it in the nose. Gills and eyes are far more sensitive than a shark's nose. Edit. Loads of replies about how punching underwater is practically impossible, and you'd be 100% right. Fixed. Shark. Oh hey, what's T-shove, alright, I see how it is. Edit. Whoa, I can finally claim a non-horrible post as my top. Sharks understand consent is what I gathered. Pulling out something that is impaling you. My cousin has horrible luck, and one time when we were playing in the front yard he went barefoot and he ended up stepping on a knife someone has lost during the 4th of July and went through the lawnmower, so the blade was sticking straight up. It was like 2 inches or so in his foot and he was hopping around and screaming, and he reached down to pull it out and like arteries and bleeding to death flashed through my mind, so I body slammed him to the ground, rolled him onto his back, then pinned him with his injured foot on my shoulder and both my legs wrapped around his to keep him from getting loose while he bled into my hair and down my back. My mom came running out about a minute later and she called 911. The knife was less than an inch from an artery in his foot. If he'd pulled on it like he wanted to, it'd have probably killed him before we could get him help. These days I'm paranoid about pulling out splinters. Edit. Why? Did this blow up so much? Edit 2. I talked to my sister about this because she'd witnessed it. According to her, right before I tackled him I yelled something along the lines of "and quat, blood. No artery. Logan. Blood. Death, death, death. And quat." Which freaked her out at the time, which why they didn't move. Edit 3. Since this is what people keep asking about, first I tackled him to the ground. He landed face first with his feet in air. I stood up and was about to get on top of him to pin him that way when I randomly remembered a wrestling position I saw on TV the other night and thought that would work better because he wouldn't be able to reach his foot, so before he could get his bearings I flipped him over and got in a sitting position as I grabbed his leg to hoist it over my shoulder as my legs wrapped around his and I held on for dear life as he started to try to get loose, which caused the blood dripping from his foot to get all over my hair and my back. We're the same age, but I'm a girl and he's about a head taller and at least 15 pounds heavier, so yeah, the fact I got him in that position and held him there is a bit of a brag. NGL. Almost anything related to avalanches. Here are a few popular and false myths that they strike at random. Most avalanches that injure or kill people are caused by those people, and they always show signs of instability, if you are paying attention. The problem is that there are lots of false positives. Where the signs are there, the instability is there, but people just don't quite manage to trigger them. That you should be quiet to be safe from avalanches, because they are caused by sound. Sound does not trigger avalanches. Even very loud sounds are nowhere near enough. Avalanche control is done with howitzers and dynamite charges. That you can get out of the way. Well, sure. Of course sometimes it's possible, but they can travel up to 60 miles per hour, and they can let loose across an entire slope all at once. By the time it slides, you are likely in it, and it's inescapable. That you can save yourself by swimming. Maybe for very small ones, but usually you're just being thrashed. I've heard it compared to being in a side-loading washing machine. That you can spit to tell which direction is up. You won't be able to see anything useful, and, gravity still works. But it's irrelevant because that relies on the next myth. That you can dig yourself out. Even if you are inches below the surface, it's very unlikely. The snow sets up very hard, very fast, as thought you got caught up in a snowplow clearing a parking lot after a big snowstorm. People caught in avalanches report not being able to move their fingers. Along with that are all the normal problems people have with low probability, high consequence risks, the "it won't happen to me" stuff. But that's not so much an issue of myths as poor judgment due to things like familiarity with a slope, desire to be accepted by a social group by skiing that rad backcountry line, feeling committed because you came all this way, deferring to someone you perceive as an expert, desire to get the first tracks after a storm, social proof, where you see others doing it, so it must be safe, etc. Reading this made me panic thinking of being trapped, probably upside down, in the snow and not being able to even use my fingers to dig myself out. So how do you survive? Or do you just ... Edit. Okay, this is officially the biggest comment response I've ever gotten on Reddit. I am by no means an expert. The more you learn about snow science, the more you realize you don't know, but I'm passionate about helping people stay safe out there. If you're in Canada, check out avalanche.ca for training courses and a wealth of resources. I believe in the U.S. most mountainous states have their own similar avalanche safety organizations as well. For people who choose to recreate in avalanche terrain, if they are smart, they are traveling with at least one other person and everyone in the party is wearing a transceiver and carrying a portable shovel and probe. And everyone should have proper training on how to use these tools. The transceiver is used to approximate the buried person's location under the snow based on the signal their device is emitting. Then the probe, 2.7 to 3 meters long skinny pole, is plunged strategically in the snow around your closest signal. When you feel your probe strike your friend's body, time to dig. Avalanche debris is heavy AF, so there is a strategy to this as well, and it's really nice to have at least one other person to speed things up. Hopefully you dig out your friend before they've been without air long enough to do serious damage. If you're out without a transceiver and you get buried deep enough that no one sees a hand or other body part sticking above the snow, so they don't know where to look, you will suffocate. A search and rescue org might come with an avalanche rescue dog, but that takes time and more often than not it becomes a body recovery mission. Best way to avoid these scenarios is to avoid avalanche terrain if you're not trained, or if you choose to recreate there for ski touring or snowmobiling. Practice companion rescue often, take avalanche safety courses, and make conservative terrain choices based on avalanche hazard ratings. Source: I do avalanche control work at a ski resort and backcountry ski recreationally in avalanche terrain.